All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the check-in. This is Clockwork's customer-facing webinar for everything Clockwork and kind of checking in with you guys. My name is Thaddeus Andres. I'm the Director of Marketing at Clockwork, and with me today is Dan Shirley, who is our new Customer Success Manager. Some of you may have spoken with Dan already in the last couple of months, and Dan is going to be the one driving and kind of showing us everything about Physician's View and the 8 stages in Kai today. So Dan, take it away when you're ready.
Thanks, Thaddeus. Hi, everyone. My name is Dan, as Thaddeus mentioned. I am the new customer success manager here at Clockwork. If we haven't already spoken, looking forward to speaking with you soon. Would love to hop on a call at some point in the near future here. So today we're going to be talking about the position view in Clockwork and how it can help support your search process in the Clockwork platform. So as a quick refresher here, the position view lives within a project in Clockwork. It's where you house your definition or the client's definition of the ideal candidate for a particular search. And before we get started here, let's open up a question to the group. Have you used the positions view before? Would love to know if you've ever used it, if you're currently using it. Please let us know in the poll. And I'll just allow a few seconds here for you guys to put in your answer.
And one thing I forgot to mention, Dan, at the very beginning of this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be sent out to everyone that registered. So in case you have to hop off at any point, we will share this recording with you. And if you have any questions throughout the session, feel free to drop them in the Q&A at the very bottom of the Zoom window.
Awesome. Great. So let's set the stage here. And let's just take a quick look at the 8 stages of executive search. These 8 stages comprise of the methodology in which the Clockwork platform was built on. So if we can take a look here from stage 1 to 8, it pretty much just goes from business development all the way through search execution. And incorporating all of these stages into your Clockwork process will make you more efficient and effective as a firm, especially when using Clockwork. And it's important to remember that Clockwork is a process-based tool. It's designed to provide value to each of these stages that you see here in the search process. So I encourage you to think about the pieces of your search process that you and your team might not be capturing in your Clockwork environment today, and consider the benefits of incorporating these into your process within Clockwork. What doors might open up in your Clockwork instance as you start to bring more of your process in the platform. So using today's topic, we'll touch on a couple of examples of what you can do in Clockwork after defining your job spec and research criteria in the position view. But first, why use the position view? How do we benefit from using it? So first, a project is your single source of truth during a search, and the position view serves as part of that. So as we define our job specs, we know sometimes they can end up in different places, right? They can end up in an email or any sort of drive. So by putting this information in your system of record, which in this case is Clockwork, helps position Clockwork as that single source of truth for your firm team and the client. Last week, I was talking to a firm and they mentioned to me that if anyone misses a kickoff call, for example, that person knows where to go. They go to the position view to get brought up to speed quickly. So it can serve as that reference point for anyone involved in the search. Additionally, filling out the positions view creates alignment on research. So by filling out the research criteria in this view, you can clearly define what types of candidates you're looking for and how we're going to screen them. And whether you're running a full desk process by yourself or you're a larger firm with a dedicated research team, it's important to create alignment internally on who we're looking for and to instill confidence in the client that there is an understanding within your firm on how you'll be screening candidates. And on top of alignment, it's important to note too that as you start to define research criteria and put that in Clockwork, that will then give you the ability to start scoring candidates directly in projects using a scorecard, and also allow you to better leverage your search work and make research easier in the future on future search projects. And similarly, for putting research criteria in the position view, when you put job specs in the position view, you'll have the ability to streamline your candidate pipeline building. This is something I'll touch on towards the end of the demo. But as you start to add job specs to the view, you'll have the ability to send out these job specs to candidates with a click of a button using a feature called job posts. And I'll touch more on that in just a few minutes here. So let's go ahead and take a look here at a demo. So bear with me 1 second. One second. Sorry about that, Thaddeus. Just give me 1 second. Can you still see my screen?
No, we can just see you.
Okay. Apologies for that.
That's great. And part of the benefit of kind of reviewing positions view today within Clockwork is, like Dan mentioned, you have the ability and the functionality to score, rank, and really rate candidates based upon their overall quality in terms of leveraging your previous work. And once you kind of, Dan will walk through positions view today, we'll touch upon other areas within Clockwork where the ranking and the rating really shows up and helps you leverage that past work.
Yep, exactly.
Now I can see your screen.
Awesome. Great. So over the next couple of minutes here, what we're going to focus on is how Clockwork's AI functionality creates job specs. In order to get to that point, we'll first need to create a project. So right now I'm in the home dashboard of a demo environment, and I'm just going to go ahead to the top right of the screen and click plus add to add a project. So let's just add a project in for, let's say, a VP of marketing search here. And it's important to note that these fields that you see here in front of you on the project create form, such as project specialty, project seniority, as well as the metadata on the client in this search, is what the AI functionality is going to read into when creating a job spec, right? So just want to point that out, that as you start to fill out this form and plug in these fields, ultimately, this is what the AI is going to anchor off of to create the job spec. So I've created a project here, and let's go ahead and hop directly into this new project that we just created and go right into the position tab here. Awesome. So now that I've created a project, I can start defining my ideal candidate. If you've already got job specs defined, you can drop them directly into the job description and job requirement text fields here. If not, no worries. You don't have to start from scratch anymore. You can simply click the Generate with Kai, which would be Clockwork AI button here. And once I click on it, it's going to start generating those texts for me. And leaning on those fields that I had mentioned before, Thaddeus, if you can, would love for you to drop that article that we have on Kai into the chat here. So that way everyone can kind of look a little bit more into Kai, the fields that I had mentioned, et cetera. So feel free and take a look at that after this webinar. So now that I've got my my job spec here, Of course, I can come in and start editing it as I please. So you have full edit capabilities. You can format it. You can change the text here. Um, it's really up to you how you want to, take this AI submission. Again, it's really just, it's a good starting point. If you want to build off it, feel free. And once you're good on that spec, then you'll have the option to accept either of these responses, accept both, decline both. So let's just say I'm good with this spec. I want to accept these responses. I'll click next, which will then start generating research criteria based off that job spec that you had accepted. And even if you paste in your own job specifications or one given by a client, the AI will read that text and generate research criteria off that job spec as well. So let's go ahead and click accept on the research criteria. It's important to note as well on the research criteria here that you can start adding in, you can add in more criteria. There's no limit as to how many research criteria you put in here. And you'll also see that there's a weighted system here. So as long as the, however many research criteria you put in here, as long as the weighted scores add up to 100%, then you're good to go and you're good to start scoring or benchmarking candidates. So I just want to point out, I think it's important to point out that firms getting the most out of Clockwork in this view are also using it in their pitch process. They'll show this to prospective clients and show that they have a central place for defining the ideal candidate and how you're going to screen them. And then when they win the work, or when you win the work, you can then start, dropping in or updating the JD or job requirements, going forward. So this is a really good place to start as you start thinking about creating pitch projects as well. And as we know, maybe some people here don't know, but it's important to kind of think about the different project types that you have available to you in Clockwork, a pitch project being one of them, so that you can kind of just show, how you'd be ready to kick off a search after winning that work per se. So now that we've got our research criteria defined, I think it's important to point out where you can start to use this research criteria throughout Clockwork. So I'm going to go ahead and go into another project where I already have candidates loaded in here. You'll see that I've got a column for rating where I can go into the long list and start screening people or benchmarking people based on my research criteria. So for example, for Michael here, I would click on the star that corresponds with Michael. That would then bring up the research criteria where I can score directly in the scorecard here. I can also leave comments to justify or provide context around, why I provided the score that I did. This is just one place where you can put in the rating on candidates. You'll also see this rating scorecard in the grid view as well. But it's important to note that you do have in the long list here, in the case that you're sharing your initial candidate research with a client, you will have that available in the long list here to show the client. All right, so another thing that's going to be really, really important as we kind of continue to open and close projects in utilizing this rating feature is then actually surfacing candidates from past projects that might have rated highly on past projects. So if we think about using this rating feature, filling out research criteria first, rating people in the long list or the grid view, and moving on and opening up new projects. Let's say, for example, another CMO search. I can then go into the people database in Clockwork and look for people that have rated highly on similar past projects. So let's take a look at how that would be done within Clockwork. If you can see on the far right side of my screen, I have a little blue tab here to open up the advanced filters. You can also open up these advanced filters using these blue arrows facing away from each other. So once I open up my advanced filters, I have some really powerful filters built in here, one being the on project filter. And let's say I wanted to find past CMO searches that I have done in the past. I could select those projects. I could then build in a rule and say, hey, on these past projects, I want to look at people that rated maybe between 4 and 5 stars. So you can see there's a blue button here on the far right of the screen. Once I click that, I have the ability to build in another rule. In this case, it would be candidate rating. And I want to see people who rated between, let's say, 4 and 5 stars on aggregate on these projects. And now I'm looking at that, cream of the crop per se when it comes to benchmarking or screening on past projects. So just to reiterate here, this is a prime example of the dividends that you might get from using the position tab, creating research criteria, and starting to score candidates, and how it might trickle all the way down to leveraging this on past work for future projects, right? So to come back to the position view, I think it's important to come back and understand how job posts, this job post feature might work that I've mentioned. So when I first started out in the slides there, I had mentioned that you can send with a click of a button, you can send job specs to candidates. So how do we do that in the position view? Well, there is an add-on that we add to customers. It's called Job Posts. It's not turned on for everyone, of course. You have to come to someone like me and ask to turn it on. And it is an add-on for customers, but for everyone on this call, we're going to offer this for free and just turn it on for you if you let me know that you're interested. So I'll hand out my email at the end of this this webinar. Feel free and reach out to me if you do happen to be interested in job posts. It is a very powerful feature, and let's take a look at it right now. So above the research criteria, there is a paperclip icon. And when I click on that paperclip icon, that's going to bring me into the job posts page here. So essentially what the job posts feature is it's going to allow us to take this job spec that we've created, and it's going to put it onto a landing page that we can share with clients, or excuse me, with candidates, for them to learn more about the position we're searching for, and for them to submit their interest directly through that landing page. So first, I want to configure that landing page myself. I can choose what from this position page do I want to include. Maybe it's job description, job requirements, compensation of the role, etc. And then I can also choose the experience on the submit interest form that is attached to this landing page. Maybe I want to ask for their phone, some sort of resume, etc. When you're good with those configurations, click generate, and that will produce this shareable link that you can send off. You can send it to someone's LinkedIn. You can put it on your website, however you want to kind of put this out there. That's up to you. But let's just take a quick look at what this might look like. All right, so let's go back here for 1 second and make sure I've got it all set. I'm going to update this. All right, great. So this is an example of what a job post landing page might look like. You can see I've got the job requirements, the job description above, and a submit interest form linked in there. Keep in mind that the submit interest form will allow candidates to put in their information and get sent directly into a project within your instance. So if someone is interested and puts their information into the submit interest form, they will end up within your grid view of the project that that we're sourcing for. So very very useful feature. I know a lot of people have asked about something like this. So I would definitely invite you to reach out to me, and we can talk about turning this on for you at no cost. Again, if you're on this call, or if you're watching the recording, more than happy to turn this feature for you on the position tab. Awesome. So let's come back and just kind of tie this all together and bring this home here. So as we think about the position view and we think about the 8 stages, it's really important to just kind of think about how this legwork that you're going to put in the beginning of a search and defining your job spec, how that can kind of trickle down to these subsequent stages in your search process. It's going to allow you to use it for scoring, ranking candidates, but also leverage. It's going to give you that ability to leverage the people search filters as well in resurfacing past candidates that might have rated highly or benchmarked highly on past searches. So definitely something I'd love to talk to you about if you guys are interested in any of the things that we covered today, whether it be Clockwork AI, the job posts feature, as well as just the position view in general. More than happy to talk with you over a call. Feel free and email me. My email is dan@clockworkrecruiting.com. And let's talk. Happy to get on a call with you. So Thaddeus, any questions in the group, or any questions that you might have for me before we kind of follow up here?
Yeah, so there's a couple questions we have. Most of them are actually focused on Kai, Clockwork AI.
Great.
And an example question, there's a couple questions about this. It sounds like you can generate a job description, research criteria, and job requirement just by using Kai. But the question is, what criterias, or I guess what important data points is Kai pulling from
Mm-hmm.
to generate those job descriptions and research criteria?
Yeah, we'll point directly to the chat. If you haven't looked at the chat, go in there. There's a link directly in there that will kind of list all of the data points that Kai is looking into. So that'll kind of give you the full list there. But to just a short answer to that would be, as you're creating a project in Clockwork, there are some fields on that project create project form that Kai is looking into. So on the role, it's looking into the specialty of the role. It's also looking at things on the company. So there's some metadata such as revenue of the client, industry, things like this. But this is all covered in that article in the chat. So I would just point you to the article there to kind of get the full list of data points that Kai is anchoring on.
And then we have another 2 questions about job postings, actually. One is, once I create a job posting, does it get updated if I return to the positions view page and make some changes after having a check-in call with my client?
Yes, great question. Yes, it does get updated, but there is an update button as well in the job posts. So as you make changes, whether it's to the actual content within the position tab or any of the configurations, I would just make sure that you're updating that link so that you have like the freshest updated landing page based on any changes that you've made.
Awesome. And then we have another question around job postings. And this question is kind of in tandem with kind of your offering, Dan, of kind of turning it on for anyone that's joined the call today or kind of watching the recording. They can reach out to you. The question is, does job postings need to be turned on in order to use Clockwork AI, in order to use Kai?
No, it comes standard on all accounts. So if for any reason you don't see the generate with Kai button on your positions view, let us know. But everyone should see that on their account. As for the job posting, that is not on your account unless we have talked previously and it's been turned on. So if you are interested, please do reach out to me at this email and we can turn it on for you. But as far as Kai goes, that should be on everyone's account at this time.
Awesome. And then our last question is about research criteria. So going back to kind of what we were looking at in positions view with the star rating and being able to rank and score candidates and benchmark them using that research criteria, the question is, can my clients in the client portal or the collaboration portal see the star rating for a candidate?
They can, yes, they can see it on the long list. Yes. And just to shout out a couple enhancements on the long list itself. If you were tuning in when I was in the long list, there are a couple new things on the long list itself. One being like a thumbs up or thumbs down, as well as like a comment box on that row of a candidate. Those two new added enhancements are for clients to kind of give a little bit more of a like a yes or a no, or any sort of context or feeling that they might have on the candidate. They can put that feedback directly on the long list using those two new features. So those are things that I would have you guys kind of check out and add. If they're not already on your long list, add those as columns in case you guys are interested in having your clients kind of give quick feedback on the candidate pool.
And it's great for upvoting and kind of downvoting candidates as well, like Dan outlined. So we have one final question, actually. This person says, "Great check-in. My question is, are Dan and Jack brothers?"
Great question. Yes, we are. We look very similar. We are identical twins. So we're actually triplets, but that's for another check-in.
Awesome. And if we didn't get to your question today, Dan will reach out to make sure that your question gets answered. Again, any questions around positions view, Kai, or job postings, feel free to email Dan at clockworkrecruiting.com. And thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dan.